All right, we're back. Chase Thomas Podcast, taping this on a Tuesday evening. Brent Hubbs, Volquest. He's cozy. He's silked out. The man,
That's not silk. Come on now.
It's silk. I'll let the YouTube video watchers here. YouTube.com/Chase Thomas Podcast. Yeah.
You know, it's the June quarter zip fleece that everybody's sporting these days, right? Everybody wears those in June.
You're just ready. Maybe it's just permeated to Tennessee reporters that Rick Barnes is wearing the quarter zips all the time and all coaches are wearing cozy stuff, that now the reporters have to go full tracksuit quarter zip.
Yeah. I mean, look like, why not, right? I mean, hey, I was a big fan of the tracksuits when I was in middle school. That was a good look. It was a good look. Or some early Nike gear, when that gets going there. Yeah, absolutely.
When was the last time you wore a suit and tie?
Crazy story. And this is not where we wanted to go on a late night, but somehow these happen when you and I get together. I actually, from the time I was about 15 till I got an internship at Sports Talk with Mike Keith to pay bills, I worked at a local funeral home, a couple of different funeral homes.
Okay.
And so I wore a suit and tie 3 or 4 days a week. And in fact, I could leave Gibbs High School. I can tell the story now because I don't do it anymore. I could leave Gibbs High School and drive to the funeral home was called Evergreen Chapel. It was up on the Asheville Highway, which is about a 25 minute drive from Gibbs, because you kind of got to go around to 640 to go that way. Anyway, I could leave Gibbs High School, and by the time I got to the red light at Asheville Highway where I got off the interstate, I could be, the only thing I didn't have changed was I didn't have my dress shoes on at that point. I was driving barefooted. The rest of it I could get changed. Between stop signs, traffic lights, and some creative driving, I could change from my tracksuit or whatever I was wearing to school that day, my hoodie, into a full suit and tie. I used to also wear, when I was working with John Ward in the first, probably up until COVID, I guess, up until the pandemic year, I wore a shirt and tie to every ball game.
Really?
Yeah, because that was the standard that John Ward had, and Bob Kessling still holds to that standard. He wears the shirt and tie and a jacket to every ball game. I used to wear a shirt and a jacket, or not a jacket, but a shirt and tie to every game. And then when there was nobody in the stands for a pandemic, I said, you know what? I could probably get away with a golf shirt. And from that point on, I was like, yeah, I'm not going back to the tie. And now after the year Tennessee had this past year, I'm definitely not going to wear a tie anytime soon, right?
Yeah. Well, now you're just Well, you're like me. I think we're both lanky, skinny dudes who get cold easily. So you're like people. I told Ryan Chembert, friend of the pod, we were talking, and I was like, "Yeah, I think you could put on a video of Volquest at any point in the year, and you have no idea what time of year it is if Brent's in it, because Brent's wearing some kind of quarter zip or cozy attire, so you have no idea if it's mid-June or mid-January."
Right. I'm a hoodie feller. That's for sure. I picked green beans in the garden Tuesday morning in a hoodie because it was like 58 degrees outside. I was like, yeah, I got to have a sweatshirt, man. It's cold.
There you go.
I'm very cold natured for sure.
Yeah. Can you still tie? You know what's sad? Can I tell you okay, this is a pretty amazing story. I definitely had someone tie my tie for me on my wedding day. I have gone to interviews. There was a time a couple years ago, longer than a couple years, so I'm 32. I remember I had a big interview for a job, and I was living in downtown Atlanta, and my parents are far away, and I just never wore ties like that. And I left-handed, so when I would watch the videos, it's backwards. So I'm trying to learn it backwards, and I've never been able, Brent, to like figure it out, because you have to. This world is not meant for left-handed people to thrive. Like there's all kinds of things in my my plight. Growing up, Brent, in a world where desks are only made for right-handed people. They don't give us our own desks, at least like 2 to 3 per class, just in case you have a lefty, because we smear our hands, we get ink all over us every day. You get hit when you play t-ball and in youth league. Guess who gets their brains beat in? The lefties. Left-handers.
Yeah, you get absolutely hammered. Here's the other thing too, and this comes from this cold-natured quarter zip hoodie wearing left-handed guy. Um, I've got everything working against me tonight, Chase,
Mhm.
right? Is spiral bound notebooks are the worst things ever invented for a left-hander.
Yes.
I mean, they're atrocious. They're just
So are you lefty too?
yes,
I
absolutely.
never knew that.
So
Okay.
I am a steno pad guy where you have
Yeah.
the spiral at the top because as a kid when you're
Yes, it's like you
trying to
develop a
get your
weird
claw, and everything to your chicken scratch so that you
yeah.
don't leave an imprint of the spiral bound
Yes.
on your hand and you don't smear everything as you're going
Mhm.
across. Yeah, it's a plight. I mean, we're totally at a disadvantage when it
Yeah.
comes to writing. All left-handers penmanship are terrible
Yes.
because of smearing ink in spiral bound notebooks.
Here's
That's
the only one who are good. There was this girl in my class who had great penmanship, lefty. Do you know what it was? She learned how to write like a psycho, where she wrote like just her hand like coordination where it looks so painful and uncomfortable for her to have good penmanship as a lefty. It was monstrous. I couldn't even recreate it if I wanted to, but I remember looking at her and I was just like, how does she have good? And it was like it was like she was stirring some pudding the way she was like writing on the paper. It
Your
was just so weird.
slinkies and slanties were really good in the
Yeah.
third grade. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it was weird, but it worked. But I'm like, it's just not that necessary for me.
Mine is so bad. This is how bad
Mine's
my
terrible.
penmanship is. My son's in basic training right now in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm writing letters, obviously, because he can't call.
Mm.
So I'm not writing him a letter. I type every letter out. And I say first, listen, dude, this might feel informal and somebody says something. Just tell them if my dad wrote a letter, there's no way I could read anything that he said. I
Yeah.
have no idea what he would be saying to me. So I type out everything. That's how bad my penmanship is. It's atrocious.
Yeah.
Atrocious.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I could put it like I'm looking at it right now. The chicken scratch is just. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like with the whole tie thing, couldn't do it. Like I've had so many moments where I would literally my wife thinks it's funny because like I have things where I'm just like I've given up. Like I'm 32, things aren't just clicking. It's never happening for me. I can't watch another YouTube video. I can't just be bad at this for an hour and still just struggle to get this thing on. And I remember going to the interview and I went into this. I think it was a Jose Bank, and I just was like, hey, I got an interview in like 15 minutes. This is gonna be a weird request, but can you just put on this tie for me, please? Can you just? And he was like, yeah, sure. And just come in there and put on the tie, and just I go in and I make it on time for the interview years ago. But I was like, yeah, I can't tie a tie. Still can't do it.
I'm okay there. I can do the single Windsor and the double Windsor.
Okay.
Pretty good. But again, I would have to tie them when I was working at the funeral home. I would tie them, and then we would put them on the corpse, to do that. So
were you actually doing that?
Yeah, I got pretty gifted at tying ties.
But on the corpses.
I mean, just slipped it over their neck and cinched it up. Yeah. Absolutely.
This explains so much. The Volquest message boards need to know this. This is actually like the Brent Hub's origin story that no one knew they needed.
Man, now I understand why this Hubscat's really, really weird. So there you go.
What was the weirdest thing you saw at
dude, I mean, this is a far cry from SEC scheduling. A far
Brent,
cry.
You can't blame me for this one. You took us down the funeral home rabbit hole in Coreyton, Tennessee.
All you asked me about is if the last time I wore a tie.
Yes.
And
you went high school.
Honestly, right?
Mm.
Strangest thing. Let's see. Somebody playing Elvis's Blue Hawaii at a funeral was a little bit bizarre. Somebody putting ashes in a goldfish aquarium, not with water in it, but like to make it look like a beach. That was pretty interesting.
That's weird.
I was at a country funeral one time, and a guy came in, and he had a pickup truck, and he had these wood boxes on the side with little holes, and there were snakes in there. I'm like, no, you can't take any of those inside. So someday I'll write that book. That book is very different from my 30 years of stalking parking lots and airplanes covering Tennessee athletics. That's a whole different world there.
Look, Brent, you don't become the expert reporter without starting at the funeral home. Whomst among us didn't learn that?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's
That's
exactly what you need to do.
that's incredible. How do I transition to
I don't know,
Virginia?
but you better get there fast because this one's going down. This is worse than Matlock and Murder, She Wrote conversations, dude.
I got a lot of comments about that. Look, a lot of people were infatuated by this. This is like the behind the curtain hour for Brent Hubs once a month. You'll get something new. This is free. Like, you don't have to subscribe, but please do subscribe to Volquest. But this is an extra just behind the curtains here.
Yeah, there's some deep hallways that we probably don't need to completely go all the way back in those curtains, right?
I mean, I'm kind of
gonna peek in and close the curtain back a little bit.
Look, we've already learned that there might be a Knoxville Mafia, a Coreyton Mafia for Brent Hubs with the tracksuit situation tonight. That, like, it's going to take me some time to wrap my head around this one.
Were you a starter jacket guy? Did you have a starter jacket?
As a kid, there's like some, like, when I'm really, really little, my parents loved putting me in starter jackets. But growing up, no. I like after, like.
Oh, you weren't old. Like, the starter jacket phase was kind of over.
Yeah.
Get into when I was in high school, the starter jacket deal was a huge deal.
Yeah. It was probably like when I'm really, really young, was in year in high school, not to date you. Sorry, Brent.
No, it's okay. I'm old. I'm good with that. That's why I'm wearing a silk quarter zip. I'm old. It's my version of a smoking jacket on a Tuesday.
That's what it looks like right now. That's what it looks like. It's great.
Yeah, thanks. Wonderful.
Hey, you do you, Brent. I did a pod like last week. I was cozy. I was like, I have what's it called? The not a nightgown. The not smoking jacket. What am I thinking of?
A robe?
Robe. Yeah, just a bathrobe. Bathrobe. Yeah. I have this amazing bathrobe that I was just like, if I get cold, throwing that bad boy on, walking around, just cozy, you can fall asleep anywhere.
That bad boy from?
My wife got it for me, I think, for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you didn't pull it out of some hotel property somewhere.
No. That's net. Man, that's foul. I can't do that. I never understood the people who took like the shampoo and the conditioner and were like excited. Like, what are we doing? Do you really need that? Why are people excited about that? Like who needs that? Why are people doing that?
I don't know.
Man, I don't like hotels. I haven't stayed in a hotel in a long time. The Airbnb stuff, that's the way to go. I've been an Airbnb guy for years and years.
I'm with you 100%. The Volquest staff stays at an Airbnb on a bowl game trip. Everybody piles into the house. Like an old frat boy day. Okay.
Who's the loudest sleeper?
Do I?
Who's the loudest sleeper?
Oh, I don't know. I pass out whenever I go to sleep. I'm not around. I mean, we're all in our separate quarters.
Okay, so you're not all in one big house.
We're not in barracks. I mean, we're all in a house, but we all got individual bedrooms. I mean, we're not piling up like 3 deep or anything. Well, let's put it this way. I'm in my own personal bedroom. Now, there's some other guys. There might be a time or two where some guys have had to bunk together, but I don't generally do a whole lot of things where I go, I'm the boss, but I am paying for that house. So I am in my own bedroom.
Hey, I respect that. I couldn't do that. Those days are long gone. You reach a certain age where you're like the roommate days are long, long behind us.
We'll take 2 rooms, please.
So Virginia, Brent, there is something to be said. So I was going through the Volquest schedule at picks, and I wanted to pick your brain here because you danced around the Florida thing, and I knew you would. I knew before even clicking the post that I was like, Brent's not making.
But here's the thing about that. That was an easy dance in June. I mean, I'll be honest. I can't dance when it gets to game week and it comes time to pick that game because I've always said I'm not going to pick Tennessee to win until I see them beat Florida. Right? That was always my easy excuse out. Well, I mean, they won last year, so I can't. What's my excuse now? Right? I can say, well, I'm not going to pick them until they win down there. I mean, I've cashed that one out. Now it's. I've ridden it longer than I wanted to ride it or I should ride it. But the fact of the matter is come game week, I'll have to pick that game. I'll have to put a score on it with a winner. I can't just pass moving forward. But I can for now in June, I can pass, right?
Yeah.
It's easy.
What's your gut tell you?
On that game?
Yeah.
Joe Milton in a hostile environment, I think he'll handle that fine. My only concern for that game, now this is the June 13th thought process, and that is he'll have 100 people there watching him play. Can he just manage and not get so kind of geeked up about that game to settle into it pretty quick? Florida's got more talent than people want to give them credit for. I don't think they have a ton. They're not. They're certainly not the Florida team of years gone by. They're also not Austin P, like some people are making them out to be. So I mean, my gut says Tennessee. You know, um, but it's a night game down there. They'll be revved up.
When was the last Tennessee Florida night game?
Well, I missed that completely when when I when that game came out with the game time. I went back into the archives like they had not played a night game in forever. They actually played a night game Josh Heupel's first year as head coach.
I completely forgot about that.
That was
that was at Florida, yeah.
Yeah, that was a total night game 2 years ago. So it'll be back-to-back night games there. So I totally whiffed.
You know what's wild is I just thought that was 3:30 and it got late in the second half. Like it was just got dark in the second half. I didn't realize that was a 7 o'clock start.
That was a night affair. I completely whiffed on that one.
And the one before it, I guess, had to be the Will Hoyt game winner, right?
That was in Knoxville.
But I'm saying like that was the last Tennessee Florida night game.
Gosh, what year was that? 04? Maybe the 05 game down there where Colquitt tried the fake punt.
Okay.
That was a really bad mistake. Really good defense, bad offense for Tennessee. They couldn't do anything. That might have been a night affair there. Seems like maybe that game finished in the dark, but it seems like that game maybe started at night.
Yeah.
But anyway, they haven't played a ton of them because they've all been CBS. I thought that game was going to be CBS this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you look at Georgia's schedule, CBS trying to figure out when do I get the national champions on TV against a potential quality opponent, and that South Carolina game was okay. If we don't take them here, when are we going to take them?
Yeah,
maybe the middle of October, and they weren't going to wait that long to take the defending national champs and put them on television.
I was there. You're obviously there. Like I was up close. Like we had awesome seats that weekend for Tennessee, Florida last year, and you know it, Brent. Like Florida was one play away from winning that game, and they had no business winning that game. Like Florida, like Tennessee, just did everything they possibly could to have Florida win that game, and part of it, like, look, Anthony Richardson being, I wish I could redo things in real time when I'm just sitting there. I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, I don't know what else Byron Young's supposed to do or Tyler Barrett. Like they've gotten him down. They are right there, and they just cannot bring this man down. Like Anthony Richardson should not be this hard to bring down, but the dude was just a tree trunk. Like he just would not tip over and was just unbelievable in that game. And he didn't get enough credit. Like Anthony Richardson, I understand, is super raw, but like Anthony Richardson was the reason that Florida was in that football game until the very last play. And a lot of quarterbacks in a lot of situations would not have been able to withstand what he was having to deal with in that game, especially with the receivers going down and just really only having Ricky Pearsall as his reliable target the whole night. But like they were one play away at home. And that was a better team than I think this year is going to be. I think you have to it kind of gives me the goosebumps of like the Treon Harris year where they couldn't complete, like Florida. You thought like, oh, the offense isn't good. Like they had there's just an inherent weakness there. Tennessee fans felt good about it on the road. Like Graham Mertz, no Tennessee fans going to be going into Gainesville feeling nervous about Graham Mertz based on what we've seen the last couple of years at Wisconsin. It's just, I can see this as the Tennessee brain is just formulating the narrative where I'm like,
It's because Tennessee, and again, they won it last year in a fashion that you typically don't see. I mean, you're watching that onside kick get recovered, and you're like, of course, right? Because this is what this series does. Because if you're a Tennessee fan, you've just been beat up by how many different ways Tennessee has lost that game. It's the Gaffney catch, no catch, right? Now, you had the Will Hoyt redemption game in 04 where they got the Dallas Baker gets the 15-yard penalty that kind of saves Tennessee's bacon there after he missed the extra point. But then you've got the two Hail Marys. You got the game where, gosh, I don't know, was that 15 maybe in Knoxville? No, it would have been 16, I guess. 13. I don't know, 14, somewhere in there. Butch Jones has got a team that all they've got to do is run the clock out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like Florida can't score. They just don't have the ability to score. And Tennessee decides they need to try to get one more, and they end up a turnover and give Florida the ball at midfield. And it's one of those deals where it's every way possible. It feels like Tennessee has found a way to lose that game. And that's what you're thinking last year when the onside kicks recovered. They're like, I mean, this game should not even be remotely close. It's over. And then yet here it is. They're going to throw into the end zone, have a chance to win this game. And you're right about Richardson. He proved me wrong because I didn't think he would be that accurate with the football, but he threw the football extremely well in Knoxville and played extremely well. So, it doesn't feel like, Florida's got a lot of swagger and everything about them, but we'll see what they look like the first couple of weeks. How well do they get settled in? What do they look like year 2 in Billy Napier's system? How much of a step do they take just in understanding, kind of what they want to do offensively and where they are offensively compared to year 1?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a totally different situation for Tennessee and Florida because Tennessee's 28-point favorites against Virginia. They're probably going to blow them out in Nashville. They're probably going to blow out Austin Peay. So then they're just like parachuted into the, okay, all right, Joe, now is the time to like kind of just prove that you are the guy and you've gotten over a lot of the hangups that a lot of Tennessee fans have had since he got here. And Florida, we'll see how they do on the road at Utah, but like they're looking at it, they might be in desperation mode right out of the gate where they have a lot more to lose. I think Tennessee will be going into that one. I just think riding high with 2 big blowout wins, and then they're just going to get punched in the mouth. We know that's how Florida is going to go, like at Gainesville is going to go. And we'll see if they respond. I am very, very curious to see what Joe Milton looks like in a high pressure on the road SEC environment as the undisputed QB1. Because the last time we saw it was not very good. It was leaving a lot to be desired there. And I just can't get the Ole Miss run out of bounds out of my mind. Like until that changes, until we see a complete Joe Milton game that on the road and a big time win, I'm not going to be completely bought in, but as of right now, I lean Florida loss. And I don't even think that means the season's going to just go off the rails. I lean right now that's more of an L than the other team that you actually have as a loss here, Brent. Would you like to guess who I am surprised to see you throw out a loss for on your list?
I think I had them going 10-2. So
you have them 9-3. You're cheating. You went 9-3 because you're wanting to say Florida loss, and you're passing right now. In your heart of hearts.
No. I mean, listen. Last time, 2 podcasts ago in here, you started going down the Joe Milton hate train, trying to drag me into that world.
I'm not trying to drag. Yeah.
I'm into that world. Okay. So I think they're going to lose to Alabama at Alabama, and I think they'll lose to Georgia.
That's the thing.
I think those 2 are the losses, and then the question becomes Florida, Texas A&M, Kentucky, and then South Carolina would be mine. Those are the 4 kind of swing games. I think Kentucky will be better and a bigger challenge this year than they were when they came to Knoxville last year because I think Levis was beat up with the toe. I think he was mentally checked out. They obviously had issues on the offensive side of the ball, which is why their coordinator is no longer there, and they bring back their old coordinator. I think that was a pretty done Kentucky team coming to Knoxville. Now, Tennessee's had their number, and much the way we've talked about Florida finding a way to always seemingly be able to beat Tennessee in the craziest fashions, that's been Tennessee against Kentucky for forever.
Yeah.
And, but that game may be a bigger challenge than some people want to think that it's going to be. And then Georgia's Georgia. I don't think Georgia's taking a step back at all. And I think Alabama's going to have big time revenge on their mind on the road or at home, excuse me.
Well, there's a couple things there. And you could probably speak more to this knowing Heupel pretty well now. Like, I'm just talking to other folks around the SEC and like plugged in folks. It seems there's no love lost between Stoops and Josh Heupel. And
no, not at all.
I just don't see him losing to Mike Stoops in this conference. I think we'll see if Devin Leary's healthy by that point in the season. Like, Devin Leary has not been able to stay healthy. He's been really good when healthy. The opposite was Will Levis. He was playing injured and just took a beating, and we'll see what that offensive line looks like this year. It's probably the best Kentucky receiver room they've had in my lifetime. to this point. We'll see what that translates with Liam Cohen back, but like I'm not worried about Kentucky. I understand that it will probably be a closer game than last year. It's going to be on the road, but that might be the one I'm most confident that Josh Heupel is most locked in on during the week is like, I'm not losing to Kentucky. I'm not doing it.
And here's the thing, the point to echo your point. I mean, they've got 2 matchups against Kentucky and Mark Stoops, and to open the game on the first possession, Josh Heupel schemed somebody 20 yards ahead of the defender. I mean, it was Jalen Hyatt, down the right sideline last year.
Javonte Payton 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it was Payton, and then it was. I mean, they almost scored 3 touchdowns on 3 snaps.
Yeah.
The first time they met, the first time Josh Heupel went against him in Lexington. So schematically, they have got something that Mark Stoops has had a hard time figuring out and getting a handle on. So, yeah, I mean, listen, Josh Heupel's he's a nice fella, and he's doesn't say anything at a press conference and golly gee a little bit and this, that, and the other. He keeps receipts. Okay. He doesn't forget anything that's said. And I don't want to say holds grudges. He just doesn't forget. And so it's no secret. There's no love lost between him and the Stoops family. So yeah, I mean, that game's important. That game's important to him. I think the Missouri game probably has a little personal vibe to him as well. And, I think he'll be really revved up for the South Carolina game this year as well. So, should be fun. We'll see.
I think
but it all goes back to the quarterback, right? It goes back to quarterback play. If the quarterback play is not good enough, then you can scheme them for all the world that you want to. You got to make plays at the quarterback position, and that'll be the question mark. Because I don't have any doubt about Josh Heupel getting people open. It's just can they execute that from the quarterback position? If they can, then I think they're going to score plenty of points. If they can't, then it's going to be some gnashing of the teeth, and we'll see what it looks like.
Of all the things to worry about Tennessee at this point in year 3 with Heupel, quarterback's not one of them for me. Like, I can have my questions about Joe Milton, but my thing is, like, if it's not Joe, then I'm not worried about it being Nico and him stepping in and figuring it out. Like, I'm not concerned about Josh Heupel figuring it out with the quarterback spot until I see a year of bad quarterback play in a Josh Heupel-led offense, regardless of whether it's UCF, Mizzou, Oklahoma here. Like, it's not a concern to me. Like, I'm not there.
Yeah, well, history says he's going to have receivers be extremely productive and a quarterback of all shapes and sizes be productive, as he has every stop that he's made, which is why you're exactly right. There's a lot of confidence right now, and that's why a lot of people are pretty bullish on Tennessee's record. They got Tennessee elevated up there in a lot of people's minds because there's a real belief that you don't have to worry about Tennessee scoring points. They're going to score points.
Sidebar real quick. True or false, Brent? McKenzie Milton's the QB coach this time next year for Tennessee.
False.
Okay.
False, because I don't think they're going to take that title away from. I mean, to do that, you're going to have to get rid of somebody to create.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, he can be an analyst, but you're.
I mean, couldn't Halsey just be the OC and then you just elevate Milton to QB coach, and Halsey doesn't have both titles?
Somebody's got to go. You only have 10 staff. 10 staff. They would be full. They're not one under in terms of full-time staff members, so they would have to.
Wait, how did that work then? With Golish being gone and Halsey just being promoted from within?
Golish was also the tight ends coach.
That's right. Okay.
Golish being gone as the tight ends coach means, Alec Abelin gets the tight ends job.
That's
Halsey
right.
keeps the quarterback's job, gets the new title, and your numbers are where they're at. So I think McKenzie Milton will be hands-on, will be, very involved, a lot of film study, a lot of conversations, but I don't anticipate him next year being a full-time assistant at Tennessee because I don't think that's going to be the reshuffling of the deck. So to speak. It was really unusual to have a coordinator who's not the quarterback's coach. And I don't see Joey Halsey coaching a different position. Yeah. And I don't see them eliminating a staff position, coaching a position to where Halsey would be a coordinator and then they would be minus a tight ends coach or minus a running backs coach or something like that. And Joey Halsey's never done anything other than quarterbacks as a coach. So, no, I don't see McKenzie Milton being there.
I didn't realize that with the numbers. I just thought they had a one, and I forgot that Golish is the tight end. I did not realize that. So they are actually right at the right number. Well, that answers that. That's good.
I got that one right.
Yeah, no, that's good. Now, because I've been wondering that this whole time. Brent, when it comes to Bama, I, I understand it's at Bama. I understand the talent. Like they're 90% in the blue chip ratio, which is just bonkers. Like you look at those numbers, and it's just 90% of the roster this year is going to be blue chippers, which is unprecedented. Like Georgia just won a national title at 76%, somewhere around there. And we are looking at that as maybe the most talented national champion of our lifetime. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about just how loaded they are. Like, Hale Downs, like Mill Creek kid, the safety, absolute dude. Watched him this fall at Mill Creek back in my home state, and he'll probably be a monster. But Dallas Turner on the one side, you have talent everywhere. But, like, if Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe, if it's Tyler Buckner at home. We saw what Tennessee did at Alabama 2 years ago in the shooting at. Like it wasn't like the game was in doubt for them, but Tennessee was still playing well in the fourth quarter. The game was not over in the fourth quarter. Tennessee ran out of gas and ran out of firepower, and the defense again just couldn't get a stop. But like they were still hanging around. It was still like Tennessee was playing a lot better than any of us had anticipated at Alabama. I don't think the fireworks are there. And if they're I just don't know if Bama is going in a direction where they're going to be able to overpower Tennessee and limit Tennessee enough to what Georgia did at home against Tennessee last year. I don't know if I see that for them. I don't know. Like it's weird to be as optimistic as I am about going into Tuscaloosa at this point. Why are you going lost right now?
Just because I think it's hard to go down there and win. And I think that when you go back and look at what happened last year, Hendon Hooker was phenomenal in that football game. I mean, he was terrific. He played so well. Now, on the flip side, obviously Alabama got great quarterback play, and that's the only reason they were in the game, right? I mean, so down there, I just a little bit see it to believe it. Can Joe do that on the road? I think quarterback play in that game is going to be really fascinating. Where's Tennessee at the tackle position in terms of handling pressure? They were pretty 2 years ago when they went down there. They were pretty one-sided. They were pretty right-handed because they were pretty limited on the offensive line at the tackle spot. So what does that look like? Can they run the ball? I think the other challenge for Tennessee is going to be our team's going to get away with holding their wide receivers. Is everybody going to play the Georgia style a year ago? Where Kirby Smart, look, listen, Georgia won, okay? So I don't want anybody viewing this podcast going, this Hubs guy's talking about we got lucky. I'm not suggesting that at all. But Kirby Smart made a wise decision in a lot of ways where he said to his defensive backs, hey, if you think you're going to get beat, grab them. Just grab them. We'll take the 10-yard penalty.
Keely Ringdo did that all the last 2 years.
Right. We're not giving you that. They should have been called for more than what they were called for in that game. But Kirby Smart was comfortable with them getting 3 or 4 pass interference penalties. Do teams play that way? Do teams just say, hey, we're going to grab? Now if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm going to an official, particularly for that Georgia game in Knoxville, going, hey, this is what's coming. They're going to grab us, and I better get a PI call on the first drive, because this is how they're going to play us.
That's what they did 2 years ago. Do you remember when they went in the end zone and Keely Ringo got called? Because I think Tennessee scored their first drive on that play to Velus Jones out of the backfield.
Yeah. So that teams may try to do that. Alabama. I mean, I just think Nick Saban and his crew on defense is like, wait a minute. We're not letting a guy get 5 touchdowns on us. And here's the other thing too. Alabama fans are excited because Pete Golden's not there anymore. Now I know it's Nick Saban's defense, but Um, Pete Golden had a lot of a lot of say in all those things, and they've not been the same since Kirby Smart left as coordinator. I think Kevin Steele is a better coordinator than Pete Golden is.
Yeah.
And so what do they look like? How much better is Alabama defensively? How much more sound are they? I mean, it's a team that was heavily penalized last year. They had a ton of bust in the secondary. A lot of mental mistakes from that they had a year ago. Do they clean that up? Do they simplify some things? How do they adjust to that this year after what's happening? Because I mean, the reality is for 2 seasons, Josh Heupel's offense has moved the ball. I don't want to say with ease, but they have moved the ball effectively
Mm.
in 2 matchups against Alabama. So do they find any kind of answer at all? I don't know. I'm just not sure Tennessee can get a night like they got out of Hendon Hooker a year ago to win that game, because he
Mm.
was spectacular in that game against Alabama. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Just played great.
I'm also more concerned about the line play in this one. Like Crawford was incredible in that game, like throwing up and just like pointing, like just the intimidation factor. And he played one of the games of his life. And Darnell Wright just being incredible against Will Anderson and company. Like that's going to be a difference now. Off the edge is, do you have that same kind of protection?
Well, and ultimately that's what got them 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Is they couldn't hold up off the edge. Too many key sacks, too many
Mm.
plays to disrupt drives. Can they hold up? On the offensive line. This year. I mean, finding those answers at tackle is going to be huge. Even before you ever think about Alabama, I'm talking about going to Florida. You better have your answers at tackle, and
Mm.
what that looks like is going to be pretty fascinating to see. I mean, you think John Campbell's going to start one of the tackle spots, probably left tackle, and then we'll see what the right side looks like. Is that Mincy? Is that Crawford? What comes about the right side? I mean, they were really. I mean, a year ago they didn't have to worry about. They only had to worry about one tackle. Everything
Mm.
else was solidified up front. And the other thing too, knock on wood, this team really stayed healthy a year ago, and that was a huge part of them being able to do what they did. Now I know you're saying, "What do you mean they stayed healthy?" Cedric Tillman was gone for forever. I get that, but they stayed healthy in the line of scrimmage,
Mm.
which was big for this team on both sides of the ball. Do they have that kind of fortune again this year? And you say, well, wait a minute, they lost Hendon Hooker, and yeah, that's when the season changed. But up until that point, they had been a very healthy football team, which is why they were in the college football playoff rankings where they were.
Yeah. If you had to estimate, what do you think is more likely, Texas A&M or South Carolina winning in Knoxville this fall? Which one would you be more or less surprised?
Um, I just have a hard time seeing Josh Heupel lose back-to-back years to South Carolina.
Mm.
I just think I go back to, and I know Shane Beamer, and I'm not hating on him, but I go back to, his finger pointing and kind of the stuff he was doing across the way last year, and knowing that this is a coach and a program that keeps some receipts. I just have a hard time seeing Tennessee lose at home to South Carolina. Now I think A&M is a complete and utter mystery,
Mm.
and because I think they're talented. Okay, but I mean this whole Bobby Petrino Jimbo Fisher marriage. I mean this thing could be. Uh,
College
it,
football
it,
playoff or like 5-7?
yeah, I mean it could be like the Hollywood marriage that's the fairy tale, or it could be the
Mm.
Hollywood marriage that's over and that's annulled, but before anything
Mm.
ever gets started. I mean, I don't know what celebrity to throw in there. I guess I shouldn't pick on a celebrity there, but I mean, this it could be really good or it could be really really bad, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of middle ground with it. I don't think it's going to be all right. They're all cool and kind of working through this thing together. I think it's going to be everybody buys in from the start into how this is going to go, or nobody buys in and it just becomes a big old mess. I have a hard time seeing Jimbo Fisher give up control.
Mm.
I see the little glasses on the sidelines, and I see the 75 sheets of paper and
Mm.
everything he's got going. I just have a hard time seeing him walk around with a headset listening to Bobby Petrino's play calls from us because Jimbo's always called plays.
Mm.
I mean, from obviously as an assistant, but I mean, when he was a head coach, always called plays. And
Yeah.
I just don't know that he can really get away from calling plays. And it's not like he's got a guy who has kind of groomed underneath him and he's like, okay, here's some concepts I want to get to. A little bit like what Josh Heupel has done, obviously with Golish and now with Joey Halsley. They know each other well, so they can talk about, hey, concepts we're going to get to, and this, and it works. Bobby Petrino has been standing where Jimbo Fisher's standing,
Mm.
both at the SEC level and at the NFL level, calling his own stuff. So who's going to be the guy? I mean, is Bobby Petrino going to get overridden? Yes, sir. Whatever you want to do there, sir. Or is it going to be slinging headsets and spiking tables and Microsoft Surfaces or whatever they got up there because they're arguing over play calls? I just don't know how that one's going to work. I'm fascinated to watch that storyline unfold in College Station because it could be great or it could be really bad.
And it's just so funny to like it. So like, I just think some people from the outside don't give enough credence to how hard it's got to be for some guys to give up play calling. Like I was talking to Delaware's head coach last week, Ryan Carty, fantastic, and he calls plays for Delaware, and it was a New Hampshire guy, played quarterback at Delaware years ago, super fun guy, and calls plays. Like he gets enjoyment out of it. I talk to high school coaches all the time where they're like, I mean, yeah, CEO, I get that I'm getting older and that I'm supposed to do that, but like part of the reason I still call like coaching is that the best part to me is calling plays. Like that's the most fun for me. Like that's what gets me going. Like that gets me most amped is like being able to call my own plays. And then just everyone just being like, he should be able to just give it to Bobby Petrino. He's one of the all-time best play callers. He's the best offensive minds ever. It's like, but Jimbo has won a title being the play caller. Like Jimbo has had a lot of success doing
more
that.
than Bobby Petrino has had.
Correct. Like it's not that easy. Like I understand why Jimbo struggles to give this up. Like I completely get that. I think that is one of the most overlooked when I hear people just rip him. Like just give it up. Like give it to him. Like you don't understand. Talk to these coaches, man. I 100% understand the human element of being like, it's my favorite thing to do. And I've had a lot of success with it in my lifetime. I don't want to just do the, hey, what's this kid need for NIL? All right, let me go see and talk to so-and-so. Like, that's the least fun part of the job now. And I think a lot of these guys just really like Kirby, Nick, whoever, like they want to have their fingerprints and call plays and be involved heavily in some side of the ball because it's like the last thing that they really, really enjoy.
And it's a trust factor too.
Mm.
I mean, they can trust the other guy. They can say that they trust them. But at the end of the day, that's for Kirby Smart defensively, that's his baby.
Mm.
Right? I mean, that is for Josh Heupel, his offense is his baby. You don't there's not a lot of guys with exotic sports cars that are just throwing somebody the key and saying, hey, here's what you do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are.
Is like Mac Brown the only one who does this? Like Mac Brown did it, and I mean he was like Lambo, whoever, like just do whatever you got to do. He like loves the CEO coach, like he loves just being the players coach.
Right, but he's an older guy who was out of the game for a while.
Yeah,
I think David Cutcliffe got to the point where he didn't do it, but for the longest time he did it. And he just felt like he was not as effective at preparing the way he needed to. Throughout the week because of all the other duties that he had. But
how involved was Fulmer in offensive line even later into his coaching career?
As an AD or as a head coach?
Both. Was he still just like heavily involved on both?
It's funny. I was talking to a former lineman just in a casual conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking. He was like, "You got to understand." He goes, "Like nobody liked playing for Coach Fulmer on the offensive line." I'm like, what? Nobody like? He goes, no, I shouldn't say that. He goes, it's just you could never do it right. Like you would get a pancake and you're like, all right, that had to come back to that's pretty good. And he would be like, hey, you're a half inch off on your instep to the left, or your hand placement was, 4 inches outside the number instead of on top of it. Like, it was just one of those things. It didn't matter. I mean, you could have depleted the guy. I mean, you could have Michael Orred him into the dumpster, and it was like he did something wrong. And so, I mean, Coach Fulmer was fanatical about the details. And he let his coaches coach until he saw the first thing he didn't like, and then it quickly became his drill. He would step right back in and be, all right, here's how we're going to do this. And, all right, yeah, you're the offensive line coach, but wait a minute, let me show you how this is supposed to be done. I mean, and again, I think he was good at it. He was a lineman. He was a very successful offensive line coach. And when you do that, it's hard to give it up.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just
because it was probably his favorite thing.
Something, yeah. When you're good at something, it's hard. It's hard to walk away from something that you enjoy doing, that you were very successful at doing it. Coach Majors was the same way with defensive backs. That's why he went through secondary coaches every year, because they're like, I can't do this guy. He come in and take over every drill that they were doing. You don't think Nick Saban steps in and coaches DBs at Alabama?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the way those guys are. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just the human nature part of it. That's just a human element part of it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Kirby and that, we'll end here. Obviously, it didn't go the way Tennessee fans had hoped at Georgia last year. You get them at home. You're leading after the first quarter 2 years ago at home. Raise the banner. Who can forget Tennessee jumping out to an early lead, 2022? Or 2021. That was the easiest bet I've ever made, was before all my Georgia friends back home, where I'm like, guaranteed, just go ahead and place the bet. Tennessee's leading after the first quarter. I would bet the house, like mortgage, whatever. Tennessee will be beating Georgia after the first quarter. Done. I'm in there, freezing my tail off by the fourth quarter, and not enjoy. I remember breaking the little hot pads, and my wife and I just breaking those little hot things. You can snap and just put in your shoe and put, do you know what I'm talking about? The little heaters.
Yeah. You can tape those to your body, and
can you really?
They create heat. Now, I don't do that because I have a battery powered electric shirt that I wear.
What?
It's got heater coils in it. Yeah, it's battery powered.
No, you don't. That's not a real thing. Are you joking?
That's a total real thing. It's a total. You can Google that, Amazon it. You can totally get one of those deals.
A battery powered what?
It's a shirt that's got heater coils in the front and the back, and you got a little battery pack that plugs in, and it heats.
What are you, just like a Transformer Autobot in the press box for these games? What?
I'm going to do everything I can to not be cold, okay? Now, let's get back to Georgia for a second. Here's the biggest challenge with Georgia. And this is, everybody talks about, the elite defense of Georgia, and they're great. Where Georgia beats everybody, and where Georgia's been able to beat everybody, is how good Georgia's been in the red zone defensively. They'll give up a drive here or there, and you're like, hey, man, you got a rhythm, you got to go on, and then all of a sudden they're at the 18-yard line, and it's like, nope, you're not going anywhere else. Like they've been so good in the red zone with their defense. Even as bad as they played at Missouri, when Missouri had a chance to put them away, they just stonewalled Missouri in the red zone on a couple of different occasions that gave Georgia a chance to win that game last year, when they basically didn't get on the flight to go up there and play the game mentally. They checked out, weren't worried about it. That's the hard part, and that's the challenge for Josh Heupel and anybody playing Georgia, but particularly for Tennessee. They may give up some yards here and there, but can you finish with touchdowns instead of field goals when you get inside the 20? Because they're probably not going to give you a bunch of 60-yarders, right? You may get one here and there. You may pop one, but you're probably going to have to methodically get it in the end zone, inside the red zone. Can you finish a drive against them? That's the hard part. That's the challenge that everybody has with Georgia right now, because they've been the best red zone defense. Now, they've been the best overall defense, but they've been elite when it comes to red zone defense the last couple of years. Stupid good.
But when you also look at, when I'm watching Ohio State, Georgia, and what Ohio State was able to do to slice and dice, and Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously having a great 3 quarters before he was knocked out in that one, there was some stuff there where obviously Ohio State's offensive line played great. That was a big part of it, is CJ Stroud had time to dial it up and let his best wide receiver group in the country do work against the Georgia DBs. Because that was one of the things that was kind of overrated about Georgia, was that Obviously, Jalen Carter made Javonte Spraggins and Cooper's life miserable in that game, and that was tough. But like the secondary was like if you look at Keely Ringo's PFF score from both games, and like me going back through my notes, like Keely got beat multiple times in both games. Like Cedric Tillman was not struggling against Keely Ringo. Like it's
Right.
not like you can't beat them. The secondary has limitations, and this Tennessee team, when I'm thinking about what they were able to do, I think Dante Thornton might be one of those like X factors in the Georgia game. It's like his size and his ability, his speed. Like if Tennessee, if he is like a different kind of receiver over the top, like that, it's just a different. I think he's probably the most intriguing wild card that's been thrown into the Georgia Tennessee mix in the last 3 years. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I thought Jalen Hyatt would have more success a year ago
Mm,
against Georgia than what he did. And Georgia clearly tried to beat him up in a bunch of different ways. They will try to do the same thing with Thornton. You
yeah.
know, um, can he physically hold up? Can he physically make plays that he needs to make? Uh, to win. I mean, I think ultimately the X factor for me is can they give Joe Milton time to operate, and when they do, can he complete balls that he needs? Can he make the plays that he has to make?
Mm,
That's to me that's the ultimate X factor. But because they're not going to give you many opportunities, but when it's kind of like a pitcher, he's got good stuff. You better hit that 2-0 fastball
yeah.
that he's throwing. You better be ready for it. You better make that play when it's there. Um, Joe Milton's got to make that play when one pops open for him. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got to be able to make a play because they're not going to give you many, but when they give you one, you got to take full advantage of it.
I'm very intrigued to see if they evolve with the receiver room this year. I think they're going to have to. There's no way you're going to be able to do the three receiver, keep everybody happy for a full year. There's no way. They're not going to be able to rotate.
Well, I mean, I think the bigger question is, can Squirrel White stay healthy?
Yeah.
Size wise. I mean, he's tough as nails, but he's still not very big. So can he
Mm.
take the pounding of a year? And I know he played all year last year, but he didn't play. You know,
Well, I
he
saw I
wasn't.
got taken down by a bunch of middle school campers this week, so never a good sign there.
I mean, he wasn't playing the volume of snaps that he played in the bowl game.
Mm.
So okay, did it in the bowl game, but can you do that for 7 straight weeks?
Yeah.
6 weeks, that type of thing. I think Ramel Keyton's the most underrated player on this football team.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And here's the thing about Ramel that nobody realizes. I mean, Joe Milton took Ramel with him to New York.
Mm.
Like that was Joe's pick
Oh,
because
I didn't
they're
know that.
they're good friends. They have a great chemistry with each other. Because when Joe was the backup and Ramel was having a hard time finding his way to the field, those two guys developed a real chemistry with each other. They threw a
Mm.
bunch of balls, that they were very comfortable. They've got a real chemistry. So I mean, I think Ramel Keyton is going to have a good year because he caught everything they needed him to catch a year ago.
Mm.
Brew McCoy is going to be better in year 2 than he
Yep.
was in year 1. Then it gets to what we think Thornton, White, Brew, Keaton.
Yeah.
Okay, you got 4, right? Now, who would be next if you need somebody?
I guess it
Are
depends
is,
if you need a slot or another guy on the
is
outside.
it Nimrod? Is it Caleb Webb? I mean,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Who kind of emerges there remains to be seen. I think they're pretty set with their 4. Maybe they may just ride with 4. Um, I think that's
Did we ever see them go four last year?
no, not 4. They got to have a tight end on the field. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to play a ton of 4 wide. But Alex Golish, and this really goes back to the Florida game their first year, um, when the kid dropped the ball in the out
Mm.
pattern. After that, he was kind of like, okay, I got 3 guys I can trust. That's who I'm going to play.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Javonte Payton a touchdown in the first quarter, and we're not going to throw it to him the rest of the game. And then we're going to play with Velus Jones, and we're
Mm.
going to play with Cedric Tillman. And
Yep.
that's it. That's the only 3 people I trust, and that's how we're going to play football. And we're going to make it work. However we need to make it work that way. Does Joey Halsley buy into that? Does he do that, or do
Mm.
they rotate a little bit more? I don't know. We'll see. I think Golish was very adamant to Josh Heupel and everybody. These are the 3 I trust. This is who we're going to play, and let's play these guys. And that's essentially what they did. They were going to play. Well, you go look at the Pitt game. Jalen, it was Cedric, and it was Brew McCoy until then Cedric got hurt and Keyton stepped into that role, for for the most part. But they were going to basically roll with three again, I think, up until you got the injury to Cedric Tillman.
There you go. Brent Hubbs, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Volquest.com this week?
We're gonna put Eric Kane on a crop duster and send him to Omaha to cover the College World Series. So we'll have plenty of pregame stuff getting ready all week for that and that epic matchup on Saturday night against LSU. There continued camps at Tennessee, so we got continued recruiting coverage. Tennessee's got a big recruiting weekend coming up this weekend with a bunch of official visitors, so we'll have more on that. Of course, later today, I guess this is going to be on Wednesday, we're going to learn who the 8 opponents are going to be for 24. We won't know when they're playing them, but is the league going to go and play a bunch of traditional Eastern Division games with Eastern Division teams, even though there's no longer divisions? Are they going to really jumble it up in this one-year, one-off thing or whatever they're doing? So we'll see who gets a rose and who doesn't get a rose in the ceremony tonight to see who's married to play each other in 24. So we'll have plenty of talk about that as well. And we'll do the mailbag podcast and all kinds of stuff. So we'll be around answering some questions and following all things Tennessee.
Yeah, Austin Price. I agree with what he said on the pod today when I was walking the dog, where he said the 4 and 4. That's what I hope they do. I hope they do 4 East, 4 West. That just don't overthink it. Just do 4 East, 4 West.
Oh man, don't overthink it. That's all they've been doing for the last year.
But that's what I'm saying. Until you get the full permanent rivals, the 9-game conference schedule, don't do this to me. Don't just shake it up to shake it up. Don't do this.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I don't disagree. But do they want, do you want to indoctrinate Texas and Oklahoma and get them into some right? See, I totally can see Alabama and Oklahoma playing in the regular season. I don't think Alabama and Texas play in the regular season because they just played.
Yeah.
But I can totally see Alabama, Oklahoma, and it would not stun me at all if the league said, you know what, I'd like to see the Tennessee Orange in Austin.
Yeah,
because they're going to travel really well. Or
would they give Tennessee and Oklahoma, or Tennessee, Texas, and Oklahoma in the same year?
I don't think so. Because I do think they're going to hold true to some of those natural rivals. Which would be Alabama, Vanderbilt. Then the question is it Florida or Georgia?
Or Kentucky, South Carolina. I mean, there's still some.
You're talking about squawking. If Tennessee got South Carolina, Kentucky, Vandy, and Alabama as 4 of their 8, avoided Florida and Georgia, well, there's going to be a lot of people mad anyway. And that's just the reality of it. There's going to be people upset, people mad. But they're going to play the Egg Bowl. They're going to play Auburn, Alabama. They're going to play Georgia, Auburn. They're going to play Georgia, Florida. Tennessee and Alabama is going to play. They're not going to – anything that's been a, quote, rival game is safe and is going to be played in 24. Yeah. Whatever that perceived rival is. That may or may not be Tennessee, Kentucky. We'll see. The question is, are they going to get Arkansas to Oklahoma and renew a little, old Big 12, Big 8 conference deal? Oklahoma and Texas are going to play, right? That's a given. They're going to play a game. But then does Texas get Texas A&M?
That's just one of those, what are we doing? That should not, Texas is not allowed to join the conference unless that is happening Thanksgiving weekend. You're not allowed in. I don't care. that's just one of those, what are we, don't overthink this. They have to play every year. That is the rule. If you want to join
I think so too. But, A&M joined this league with the idea that Texas wasn't coming to this league.
Yeah.
And here they are. So,
well, you got to win the conference once to have some kind of sway. Can you win the conference once?
I think they should play too,
yeah.
But we'll see what happens. It should be a fascinating deal with a lot of people mad on Twitter and on message boards. There'll be a lot of gnashing of the teeth. We got hosed. The conference is against us. It's a conspiracy. Somebody's got pictures on somebody somewhere. So all those tweets are coming out sometime Wednesday night after this made-for-television event, announcing these teams.
I won't be watching on TV. They're not doing this to me. I'm not going to be one of those sickos, Brent, sitting by the TV for a schedule release.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm going to check Twitter. I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to be like, okay, move on with my day. got pods to do, Brent. I got things to do. I hate watching the draft. I hate watching stuff like that.
Oh, really? You're not a draft
hate
guy?
it.
Oh, I like
hate
that.
it. There's so much in between dead air. Like if it was just we keep this thing moving, sure. But there is so much just, and then when he was in 6th grade, he blah 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 blah, and we do all this stuff. Like there's too much. It's not fun. It's not a fun experience. It takes forever. They have all these celebrities come in and announce the picks, and we do this, and it's not for me.
That's a real get off your lawn kind of
I know. That's more of a Brent Hubbs kind of take right there.
So you don't watch the NBA draft either?
No.
No drafts at all?
No.
You're not following any draft coverage?
I'll read the reactions the next day. I'll literally look at the full list of picks, and then I'm done.
You have like the scroll going, you have it on, just kind of glance over and see who they pick, but you don't have popcorn and a Coke.
No, absolutely not. No, I'm watching probably the new season of Barry to make sure I'm all caught up there with my wife. I do a walk with our dog at that time. No, can't be doing that.
I'm watching the draft because I'm a loser then.
There's different strokes for different folks.
One of those losers who wants to learn about what Tommy did in the 6th grade when he got cut from his middle school football team.
Yeah, I can't.
And he was an 87-pound fullback.
Yeah, I don't care.
With a neck roll bigger than his helmet was. Had a cowboy collar on because his hero was wearing a cowboy collar. Right?
Yeah, just what happened to neck rolls? We just collectively decided as a society, like that's just it. I played up until 8th grade, and there were kids still rocking the neck rolls, and then one year it just gone everywhere, just gone.
Yeah, they're just somebody deemed them that they were no longer a real help to your safety.
Yeah. But they didn't really need your safety. It was just intimidating. Anyone with a neck roll, it just looked intimidating.
Yeah, but then, and then everybody started adding all this other gear, and they were like, 7 more pounds of gear than what they needed to do,
Yeah.
Lean it out and play rugby. Like we don't wear knee pads anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but then you got the guy who's got on like, the shooting sleeve and, he's got tights on when it's 112 degrees outside.
Well, hold on. You're the fashion guy here, Brent. You're the one. No. Hold on. The tracksuit says otherwise here. The silk tracksuit.
That was in middle school.
Yeah.
In middle school.
Okay.
Now I'm not the fashion guy at Volquest is Austin Price with his, with his fashion attire. Me, I'm in a hoodie or I'm in a pretty plain Jane golf shirt. And that's about all you get out of me. Pretty plain Jane. Pretty boring. Pretty vanilla.
There you go. That's okay, Brent. We'll allow it. Brent Hubbs, always a pleasure, my friend. And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Chase.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.